The Chicago Sky are set to have one of the more interesting free agencies of any WNBA team just because of the different directions in which they could go. We're going to talk about it, what's going on with Candace Parker, and how this roster may need to be remade if she does not return. We'll get into all that and more right after this.
Welcome to Chicago Sky Central, and here's your host, Haize.
All right, Sky fans. Hey, we're back. Our first episode of the offseason. And so, with this being said, we're starting a new season and jumping off. We started this show about midway through last season. This is going to be our first full season covering the Chicago Sky here over at Chicago Sky Central, part of Chicago Sports Central, which we cover the Bears, the Bulls, and the Sky, soon to be the White Sox, and the Listen, it's a network. We're doing our thing. But with that being said, to focus here on the Sky, I wanted to just drop a quick episode and update, kind of going through my thoughts and feelings on where the Chicago Sky currently sit, what's going on, what could happen with this team in the future. And one of the biggest things in this and that we found out is that Candace Parker seems like she does plan to return to the WNBA. But the biggest question is where, and that is one of the biggest questions that is going to affect the Chicago Sky and how they need to handle this offseason. And so with Candace Parker not retiring, and there had been some thought if she was going to retire, I'm glad that she's not. She deserves a big send-off, and she deserves for the world to know when she's going to retire so that we can celebrate her that season. And by we, I mean fans of the WNBA and the game can celebrate her that season as she deserves as one of the best players in WNBA history. And so, but, all this surrounding her and, her coming to Chicago and playing the 2 season series, it was a great story, especially the fact that we did win a WNBA title with her being here in that first season. And the Chicago Sky season fell short last season. It was disappointing. A lot of the things that kind of affected them in bad games last season, it just reared its ugly head in the playoffs. And even though the Chicago Sky were one of the deepest rosters in the WNBA, they were not able to make it to the finals for what many people, me included, thought was an inevitable matchup with the Aces in the WNBA finals. Now, with that being said, it's this. Candace Parker does plan to return. All signs point to that. But what team is it going to be? And that question, the answer to that question is what is the most important thing about what the Chicago Sky are going to do with this offseason. Hey, we have a bunch of free agents on right now. We know that everyone kind of signed those 1-year deals to run it back, try to go repeat as the WNBA champions. They weren't successful in that, but it does bring about the questions on what's going to happen. So we're going to take a look at those free agents and what it could mean if Candace Parker does plan to return. So for the nature of this, if she does not plan to return, right, just for the nature of the conversation, if Candace Parker does not return to the Chicago Sky and she goes back to the Sparks or goes to a different team to ring chase or anything like that, which, and I don't mean to say that negative. Candace Parker, if she does decide to chase a ring, she more than deserves to do so, to go out storied and get as many titles as possible as she prepares to end her career. But with that being said, of our top 6 players last season, the only player who's under contract for 2023 is Kahleah Copper. She's the only one. That leaves Rebecca Gardner, Emma Meeseman, Candace Parker, Allie Quigley, Azura Stevens, and Courtney Vandersloot, Sluty, who's a Chicago legend to me. They're all free agents. And if Candace Parker does not return, what does that mean for the Chicago Sky roster? Some could say, hey, the Sky, they still have a lot of talent on that team. Talent that really didn't get to play a lot last season just because of how things were. When you look at Alaman, didn't play a lot. Dana Evans, who I think Dana Evans has huge upside in this league, only 23 years old. She could benefit hugely if some of these players aren't brought back. But outside of that, and Lee, she really didn't see much with her. She didn't look amazing in her time either. But if Candace Parker decides not to return, what will the Chicago Sky do? And I look at it and saying, hey, if they decide not to sign most of these players back to save some money, do some things like that, they could bring back some key free agents. Brittany Griner, who shout out to her for returning and coming back home to her family, could be a definite possibility there. Tierra McCowan definitely could be one as well. But, that's not as interesting. We'll do a video on that down the line of if Candace Parker does not return, who could be some of the targets for the Chicago Sky in both the draft and the free agency. But I want to speak on this. If Candace Parker does decide to return to the Chicago Sky, how many of these players do come back? Now, Rebecca Gardner is reserved. More than likely, she's going to be back. the Sky would be crazy to let her go, even though she was an older rookie. She's a baller, and I do think with greater opportunity, she's going to bring some big things. But when you look at the Chicago Sky, out of what ESPN ranked as the top 15 free agents in the WNBA this offseason, 4 of those players are Chicago Sky players: Candace Parker, Amy Mieseman, Allie Quigley, and Courtney Vandersloot. I think was Azurá Stevens on that list as well. Could be wrong on that one, but Azurá Stevens was. I think Quigley was the one that was not listed on the list. But with that being said, 4 out of those players out of the top 15 are all Chicago Sky players. If Candace Parker does come back, the Sky could look to do what they did last offseason. Bring everybody back pretty much on 1-year deals. I think Rebecca Gardner could get more than a 1-year deal. Even Mieseman as well. She's not old by any stretch of the imagination. I look at her as somebody who I would think could come back. She's 29 years old, but as we know in the WNBA, players play well into their late 30s. And I do like her, and I do think that she just has such a well-rounded game that it could bring a lot back for the Sky. But I do think that the Sky would definitely look at that and saying, hey, where can we make some improvements? But where do we bring these players back? Azurá Stevens, I love her game. I look at her as a player that I would love to bring back as well. Sloot is kind of grandfathered in a way to me, but and that's the more difficult thing. As a fan of this team, of course, I want the Sky to bring everyone back, but is that viable to a team that at times last season, even with their depth stagnated, didn't bring the intensity? You may need to bring some different energy in there. As I spoke with Dana Evans, you may want to unlock her, and to do that, you may have to let Quigley and Sloot go. And are they a package deal with one stay and one not go? There's a lot of questions around there. But if they do decide to bring if Candace Parker does decide to come back, I do think that the Sky have to look at that and say, we need to try to re-up it, improve where we can. But maybe everybody doesn't share that opinion. Rebecca Gardner, I've already said, super high on her. She needs to come back. Amy Mieseman, I'm definitely more in line with bringing her back if Candace Parker does come back as well. I'm kind of in line with keeping her regardless. Quigley and Slooty are the biggest question marks to me there. And I know not everyone's gonna agree with that, but considering they're veterans, considering also their age, when you look at Quigley being 35 and Slooty being 33, again, Slooty's not old at all, but would you want to try to make upgrades and go a little bit younger to try to build something that could last a little bit longer? The one thing that this Chicago Sky team could do, regardless if Candace Parker's returns or not, is really look at it as, hey, we need to improve and get a little bit younger so that we can have a sustain. That way, if Candace Parker is only back for us for 1 year, we still have a solid playoff team and contending team that maybe with 1 or 2 moves, we're right back where we were before. And I do think that that's going to be the mindset of the Chicago Sky. Again, I could be completely wrong on there. There are a lot of great free agents that the Chicago Sky could go after that are a little bit older if they do want to add to this team and kind of keep where they're going, but keep that veteran just. The thing about the Sky that was amazing last season is their vets played like vets, and everybody stepped up in different ways. We had a team full of players that could shoot, that were skilled, things like that. But I'm looking at this. Brianna Jones, a center, if you do move on from Ema Mieseman, could you bring Brianna Jones to the Chicago Sky? That could almost instantly be something that, again, a great player. She's ranked as the number 2 overall free agent. More than likely, she's probably going to go back to the Connecticut Sun. But if you can pry her away, that right there alone, even if you don't bring Candace Parker back, if you can keep the core of this team together, out of the free agents that we have available, re-sign half of those to most of those, and we're able to steal Brianna Jones away from the Connecticut Sun, you're looking at extending your window very far. To me, again, that's my opinion. Everyone could not agree with that. But let me know what you guys think on everything down below. I just wanted to get this episode out, talk about the Sky, get the mindset clear as we get ready to prepare for the offseason and the WNBA draft that's still a little whiles away, right? It's not like it's close. We got some time from now between then. Gonna do a little bit more reflective episodes. Expect 2 to 3 episodes from me a week. And then once the season starts back, we're going to try to be as close to daily as possible. So make sure you guys are tuned in with that. You can also follow us at Chicago Sky Pod is the Twitter. It's been so long since I've done this show. So make sure you follow us there. You can also follow me personally at CEO Haize, that's CEO Haize. And if you do want to leave any voicemails or text messages for our mailbag episodes, we're going to try to get those started. 773-270-2799. We share that with Chicago Bulls Central, so just be aware there. But that is it for me for today. That's it. Skytown's coming back. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.